switch to speaker view, okay, Gio?
Very good. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Great to be with you in the Daily Huddle live with Sorrel, April, and an amazing group of human beings. I am truly excited. My name is Giovanni Gonzalez, and we are here at the Daily Huddle every Monday to Friday at 9 in the morning till 9:30, taking on some really insightful, profound, thought-provocative questions from daily experts. Sorrel, good morning.
Good morning, my friend. I am happy and grateful for you, happy and grateful for April, and happy and grateful for all of you who joined us live this morning. We're also streaming on Facebook. So this morning, I get to say we're happy and grateful for the world around listening and tuning in into the Daily Huddle. I was thinking this morning and I said, gosh, what has me get up every weekday morning to create this conversation with you? And one of the things that came to me is, oh my God, there's such power in trust. I believe in trust, and I believe in the power of our collective power, that when we say we're standing for the transformation of humanity itself, that I trust you and you trust me in the matter of that being realized in our lifetime. So thank you for, being this circle of trust dedicated to this great feat. And today, I'm so happy to have April Moales with us. And I want to take a moment to introduce April. April is an internationally renowned author and speaker in the fields of self-development and spiritual growth. Her life's purpose is to help people look at themselves and begin to shift their perception of who they are while empowering individuals to find their own life's purpose and manifest their desires. Now, I could read on and tell you a whole bunch more about April, but I'm so excited to bring her on. She's a certified life coach and founder of the Coach for Life program. And she is the publisher and author of this book, Weight Loss Equals Weight Loss. Well, I don't want to say any more about that, and I'll let her go right into today's question, which is, what is the impact of waiting on your emotional, mental, and physical body? April, so happy to have you here. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Sorrel and Gio. Before I address the question, I just want to take a moment and just acknowledge you both for not waiting on setting up a structure for us all to come together in the face of the crisis. I also want to thank everybody that said yes right now, that's on the Daily Huddle, to be a part of this conversation. It's going to be an important conversation, not only that we consider for our personal life, but as we join together as a group here, and because we're online on Facebook, and we know that that medium crosses the globe, that we are being responsible for losing the weight as a group, as a region, as a state, as a country, and then as a world. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, April.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Gio. So it's important that we ground ourselves in the context of space and the current time, the present, the gift of now. So what I'd like to do before we get started, I'd like you to take a deep breath in, fill those lungs, and then release. whatever there is for you. As we begin in this journey this morning and move through the transitional phase of COVID-19, I want to share with you that I believe that our self-care is the new healthcare, and that contemplative meditation is the new prescription. So we're all experiencing this global pandemic called the coronavirus, COVID-19. This condition is not a respecter of geographical location. It is not a respecter of people, race, color, religion, body size, education, social status. It is not a respecter of your financial status. We are all collectively in the experience of this condition on the planet. So in terms of creating a context for answering the question, what is the impact of waiting on our mental, emotional, and physical body? As an example, we're going to use, what I'd like to do is I'd like to use the condition that's on the planet right now, COVID-19, from a personal, group, social, community, state, region, country, and world perspective. We are all waiting on some form. We're waiting collectively for a mask. We're waiting in line. We're waiting in line to purchase groceries. We're waiting to be tested. We're waiting for a vaccine. On a global level or on a national level, the federal government is waiting on scientists to come together with a sufficient number of COVID-19 tests such that they can clinically put together a vaccination. We're waiting for that clinically tested vaccination. The governors, if we're talking about region now or state, the governors are waiting on the federal government to supply the PPE, the protective personal equipment, to actually begin to fight this war or this condition called COVID-19. Hospitals are waiting for PPE. We're waiting to hear that social distancing is over. We're waiting for the things to return back to normal. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we are waiting for things to return back to normal. We're waiting to hear how the economy is going to bounce back. We're waiting, some of us are waiting for a stimulus check. So that is the collective, that is the collective weight in the face of this condition. Now, back in January 2020, before this world pandemic hit our planet, we were all waiting in some form in our personal life, whether you were waiting for a new job, waiting to be acknowledged on your job, or waiting for a promotion. We were waiting to start our own business, waiting for time to take off for vacation. We were waiting to retire, to start our living. We were waiting, some were waiting to die. Some were waiting on their partners, their spouse, or their significant others, waiting to tell somebody you love them, waiting to apologize or to have an apology be rendered to you, waiting for love, waiting for joy, waiting for peace, waiting to be happy, waiting to enjoy your life, waiting to live a life of purpose and follow your passion, So I want to, inside of beginning to answer this question, I want you to consider that we all have been socially conditioned to be chronic waiters. And I'm not talking about a waiter like in the restaurants that used to serve us. I'm talking about this internal mechanism that when faced with whatever it is in any area of your life, that you have become a chronic or been socially conditioned to be a chronic waiter. So listen, what I'm about to say to you is extremely important. In my book, Weight Loss Equals Weight Loss, that's W-A-I-T, loss, equals W-E-I-G-H-T, loss. I argue, or I am beginning to share with my academic friends and begin to prove the principle that waiting, wherever it is in your life, has an emotional density to it. When you look at your life through the lens of waiting, there's always an emotion attached to the wait. In general, these emotions have what they call an energetic, mental, and emotional density, like that physical density in our body measured in pounds called weight. So, and this density of the emotion that is attached to the mental and the emotional body renders the majority of the time, let me include some people there, is that when you are functioning in this density called waiting, or having this emotional attachment attached to waiting, it renders your mental and your emotional, and yes, your physical body immobile. Let me say that again. When you begin to start looking at your life and look in an area that you want to move forward and look at it through the lens of waiting, and we're going to talk about some of the emotions that are attached to waiting and how they render your mental and your emotional and physical body immobile. Emotions that are typically associated with waiting are anger, fear, regret, anxiety, shame, blame, hatred, grief, unforgiveness. These emotions, and I'm going to take it a little bit further. I see my time here. I think I have until 9:20. I'm going to try to fit everything in within this time frame. But these emotions have what they call a heavy or an emotional density. So when you think about waiting, waiting is a mental concept. When you think about emotions, I want you to think that we're much greater than our physical body. We do have a mental body, we do have an emotional body, and we are spirits. We are the creator of our own creation. And when we traffic in these dense emotions, such as anger, fear, anxiety, worry, whatever they are, they have a lower vibrational frequency. And when it becomes chronic, it creates a form of dis-ease in the body. So let's take one of those emotions and I'll give you a quick scenario. Let's use fear as an example. That's one of the most common emotions, energy in motion, attached to weight, associated with waiting. I'll keep it general so everybody can relate. So map this on for yourself. During this example, I want you to observe yourself in your area of weight. And I want you to begin to see what the emotion is associated with it. For this example, again, we're using fear. Let's say someone unconsciously or consciously is waiting to change. Get the picture. When this person experiences the thought of change, the mental body, when I talk about the mental body, I'm talking about that body that's made up of thoughts and ideas, etc. Whether it is something as simple as changing his or her mind, changing his or her physical appearance, changing the hair color, changing your clothes, changing your job, changing your profession. The energy in motion attached to the idea of change is fear. The emotional body now has an experience of a form of dis-ease. So whether it's conscious or unconscious, when you are running, when fear is running your show, it renders you immobile. When you're afraid, on a psychological perspective, the mental body, you run into fight or flight. We are experiencing that today with the advent of the COVID-19, where people when they heard about COVID and what was going to happen, based on their fear and unconscious fear, they began to buy up all the toilet paper. They bought up all the supplies of cleaning supplies because of fear, which rendered them, and it's a concept called hoarding. But let me go back to the energy in motion on the idea of fear. The dis-ease has a density in the mental body, and it shows up in the form of depression, mental body, bipolar disorders. These are just examples of what happens when you are a chronic waiter. And I'm using the example of waiting on change. You have a different relationship to change, and your relationship is about change, or you're afraid of change. And if you are in that chronic wait condition, the impact on your mental body is some type of mental disorder. And clinically proven, they say it's depression. It can actually show up at the beginning stages of perhaps pain in your mind or in your head. They call them headaches, etc. The disease has a density in the emotional body. And this dis-ease that I'm talking about is just fear of change. So you're waiting because you're afraid of change. What happens in the emotional body is perhaps you feel panicked, or you have anxiety or worry or stress. And we know the impact on the physical body if we have chronic condition of being stressed out. The body releases certain chemicals. It begins that fight or flight. When you are stressed out, you start, your body begins, your heart begins to palpitate, meaning that your heart begins to work overtime. Your body begins to contract versus being expansive and released and relaxed. And with that chronic condition, I have had a couple of my clients, some of their spouses experience cardiac arrest. And so that is the physical body. But if we entertain this idea that we are much greater than our physical body, and I see I'm about to run out of time, but let me just get this one out. If we entertain this idea that we are much greater than our physical body, that it started somewhere, the creator created something, and that something was related into this heart region. So perhaps they were waiting for love, perhaps they were waiting to be affectionate. Whatever that love region is right here in the heart region is what that chronic waiting may be the source of cardiac arrest or heart attack. So I want to just say that we talked about this showing up in the body as dis-ease. On the other part of that equation, we're talking about physical weight, but these energy forms called energy in motion also have a density. If you're skinny and you don't have any fat on your body, you're not excluded from this conversation. So if you lose the weight, as the title says, from the inside out, when you begin to look at and lose the weight in any area of your life, the weight drops off of the body, because what's done in the unseen must constantly unfold in the seen. And the scene that I'm referring to here is in your physical body. Now, the other thing that I want to speak of is when you're waiting, and who I identify as, it's not this form that you see. I identify with who I am, which is greater than that which you can see with your physical senses, that which you can touch, feel, smell. Who we are as spiritual beings. When you're waiting as a spiritual being, that weight in that term is called inertia. It renders you immobile. And then the chronic process of inertia is what they call entropy. And entropy is the process, the slow process of death. So COVID-19.
I got a question for you, April.
Yes.
Because I wanted to, because you're going into in some degree, a new direction, but I'm still looking at something that you created for all of us, and I wanted to get an insight from you. So when you were saying waiting, and I almost feel like I'm waiting for absolutely everything my whole life. I'm waiting for absolutely everything. I'm waiting for everything. I'm waiting to lose weight. I'm waiting for my children to grow up. I'm waiting for me to have a better relationship. I'm waiting for me to not have a better relationship. I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And you say it creates a density. Your point, a density in what do you mean by density, April? What does that mean that it creates a density?
Very good. Thank you so much, Gio. It's a great question. Not quite sure if I have enough time to answer it, but I'm going to do my best.
Yeah, in a degree where you answer it, and you also maybe give us some space for other people to ask you questions as well. I understand.
Okay, well, so let me make it quick. So remember the equation: weight loss equals weight loss. Weight loss is about waiting in your mental, emotional body. And then if you're waiting, there is a physical weight on the body that is measured in pounds. So in energy, so when you have cycles of vibration, there is a density, there's a weight. Like for instance, when you're afraid, you can feel like it's a suppression, it's a depression. So when I'm talking about density, I'm talking about an emotional weight, consistent and equivalent with how we measure weight on a physical scale. You can measure, which I do in the book, I try to quantify these emotions that are attached to weight to give you a measurable pound, if you will. How much do you weigh in emotional pounds versus how much do you weigh in physical pounds?
You know, I know that other people have questions, but I got to ask another one because this is so great. So one of the things that you said was we have become chronic waiters, right? Yeah. And so even though you're giving me this insight and I'm looking at the, you know, that possibility of not being a waiter, but how is one not be a waiter? How do I look at my life without waiting for something? I don't know. I'm just kind of like looking for
actually, again, it's a great question. So there's the when you're present, mm-hmm. Make a choice. Let's say, for instance, like you said, you're waiting to lose weight. Most time people are unconscious that there's a weight there. They just make excuses for, oh, well, I'll do it on the next day. But I guess the first thing that you can do is to not be a chronic waiter is to give up the weight loss. And the first way to do that is become aware, get present. That is why I started our context today with presencing us to space and time. Being present right now, You just identified that I'm waiting to have my marriage be better. I'm waiting for my children to grow up, or I'm waiting to lose weight. If you are conscious that you're waiting and you just heard the effect, if you will, or the impact on your physical body and your mental and emotional body, you can make a choice in the moment. You know, that's really great, Gio, because that's another point that I wanted to say, is that in this new ushering in of this new world order that's coming, before anything starts, it begins with language, self-quarantining, self-isolation, contact tracing, PPE. All of this language is bringing in this new epistem. But the thing is, the thing that they have not quarantined is your ability to choose. So right now, you just identified 3 major weights. And I can tell you that if they are chronic.
I never saw it as I was like working on them, right? I never saw it as waiting until you propose the notion. But I don't want to hold the notion just on my question. I was wondering if Sorel has a question, or maybe somebody else has a question.
Thank you, Gio, for your questions.
Thank you, April. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being so generous, April. Well, this is live. We're going to go on Facebook and see if anybody has questions there. And we're opening it up for questions right here to the live audience. Who has a question or comment?
Go ahead, Mary.
Go ahead.
I have a comment, and April, thank you for all your generosity and sharing. And
Mary
what
Pat?
I wrote down at the beginning,
Will you keep your comment to 1 minute, please?
yeah, was that now, the gift of now. And if we actually took on the gift of now and just, I went into like waiting in the grocery store line, and you can actually still communicate with people and things like that. So that's what I'm going to take on, is the gift of now, and really be present to the gift of now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Pat. Who else?
Thank you, Mary. Yes, go ahead, Jamal.
So what I heard inside of the wait and just getting present to my own life. So a lot of times I wait to get things done. And what I notice is all the anxiety around it. And until it's actually done, like I process what it's like to get it done and all the stress that it's going to take to get it done and all of this. And it does create a lot of anxiety, and I hold a lot of tension in my body. But the moment I actually do the thing, you know, we often relate to it as the world has lifted off my shoulders, or the weight has lifted off my shoulders. And so when you talk about the weight being gone, right? Like the mental weight, the weight on the body, like that's what I heard, right? Like I got the physical sensation of like something being lifted in that moment. So really just looking at all of the emotional attachment to the weight, or the emotional consequences of the weight, and how that could lead into disease, because that continuously presses on or affects the organs and affects the body, carrying that around for whatever period of time that is. And so like Mary Pat said, the presence of now, just getting things done, and what it would be to live in that kind of world.
Thank you, Jamal.
Thank you.
Thank you. April, I'm also present to this, that waiting, you said waiting renders me immobile. And I'm discovering in this conversation that a lot of the waiting I do is actually unnecessary. So I'm immobile in life for no other reason than my own addiction to waiting.
Wow.
So for business people, business owners, CEOs, and key executives of small to medium-sized businesses, I'm hearing you say a lot of the waiting you're doing is not necessary. And while this conversation is about the disease and the density that results in immobility in the physical body, there's a physical body called your business. that also gets impacted in the same way. So this conversation is for the world of a human being living life, and also for the world of a business owner running a business. So I'm really excited about going out today and for the rest of my life, and to simply see that I am waiting. I am a chronic waiter. I am addicted to waiting, and it's all unnecessary. And maybe sometimes I can wait, and it's a choice. So thank you. Thank you, April.
Thank you, because if you and Gio had waited to create this forum, it wouldn't be here. But there would be a mental and emotional impact on you guys as business owners with an unconscious weight, because I know that you heard from your spirit that, wow, we need to create this forum. And you didn't wait. So thank you for losing the weight.
Thank you.
And thank you for creating the space inside of which we can and will for the rest of eternity. April, it's been lovely having you on the Daily Huddle.
I have a quick question. April.
Yes.
Two things. I associate the waiting with a lack of inspiration. Is there a way, or I just Googled and saw your book there, and I'm just, wow, I didn't know that was there. That existed. Is there a quick reference? I'm gonna get the book, but is there a quick spot in your book that really cut that weight loss? Like say, okay, I'm gonna go straight there and really start reading this, and then trickle back and read the entire book.
Yeah, so
Ronald is saying he doesn't want to wait anymore. He's done waiting. That's what Ronald is saying.
He wants to give up the weight. I understand that.
April,
So
two things.
Yes.
You could answer that question in 30 seconds or so. I also want to apologize for the others who raised their hand and we didn't call you on. And do you mind putting on the chat your contact info so I can put it on social media as well? Go ahead, April, and then you finish it up, Sorrel.
Okay, so the question is, is there a direct way to get to you see that
weight loss
of inspiration, correct?
Yeah.
So there are only 7 chapters in the book, right? So the first chapter is what is your weight? So you have to identify your weight. And then the second chapter is you want to look at your emotional pounds, which is what Gio was talking about. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. How much do you weigh in emotional pounds? And then what's really powerful is that because you have a lack of inspiration, the third chapter talks about BMI. And I'm playing a trick on words here because BMI usually has to do with body something index, body mass index. Right. Mine is belief mentality index. There is a density to your structural patterns of belief, which would have you be in inspired, but the way that you're getting to it is looking through the lens of waiting. This fourth chapter is giving up weight loss. But you don't want to go straight to the fourth chapter here, Ronald, because then you're not giving yourself, you're not cleansing the body. The other thing that I wanted to bring in point in here is that when you practice these things, you are healing your body from the inside out, and you're also building your immune system from the inside out. Fourth chapter is trusting the process. The sixth chapter is weight loss, which is W-E-I-G-H-T loss. And then the last chapter is about the mind-body connection. So to answer your question, and one thing is I suggest you just read the whole book, but if you wanted to dive in and like bounce all around, go to chapter 3 about your belief mentality index. And then you do want to come back and look at, well, what is your weight that has you be uninspired?
Awesome.
I will put my stuff in the chat here. Let's see. Oh, by the way, and I have on this Under Armour because I do believe it's all about healing the body from mind and body from the inside out. In this war, we have to have on our Under Armour.
And you have your Under Armour on, both physically and emotionally and mentally, right?
Absolutely.
April
YouTube
Moales,
channel.
everyone. Thank you so much for being on here, and to everyone in the studio audience live, and to everyone around the world watching the Daily Huddle live on Facebook. Thank you for your participation today. And I'm leaving with this, April, and I will leave the world with this. I first acknowledge that I am a waiter. I wait chronically. And now that I'm aware, I can actually catch myself waiting. That is a good thing. And when I catch myself waiting, I just stop waiting. I could literally power through it that way. And what I'm discovering in the last couple of days, April, is that as I power through the wait and notice my own addiction to the waiting, the emotions that come with it show up. And I'm able to label them and say, oh, that's what that is. And then choose. Not waiting doesn't mean that I actually have to take an action. It means I come to this moment of choice.
And
of
awareness.
Liberation, of freedom. And in some areas, I stop waiting, I move on. In some areas, I stop waiting and I act consistent to my personal commitments. And in some areas, I continue to wait. And that could also be a choice. Thank you so much for creating so much freedom around waiting and losing.
Sorrel and Gio for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, until next time, this is the Daily Huddle, where you get what you need to live a phenomenal life, make great decisions, and produce great results in your life. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.